Perfect. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this one of never always evolving topic, which is leadership. But this time it's a little bit more special. It's about leadership in lockdown, and we are very happy and we're very pleased and we're very honored to have with us today Mark, who is the Director of Accreditation at AMBA, who also happened to be one of the leading figures in the accreditation across the worldwide. He has participated in approximately 200 accreditation visits. He also launched the AMBA Development Network and the AMBA's Research Center, serving as founding editor of his journal. We're very pleased to have him with us today to give us a little bit of insights from his part of the world about the what to do in times of crisis. And this is an absolute interesting topic that we would love to hear from today. So let me introduce to you, Mark. The mic is yours.
Thank you very much, Lana, and let me just set up my presentation if I can. Just don't seem to have the authority to share my screen at the moment. There we go, we're getting there. Okay, so I was asked to talk about to you about leadership today. Very happy to do that, but I'm very aware that I am not an expert in leadership, and also aware that I'm speaking to a group of you that probably are. So I thought, rather than speak from a position of authority on this, what I would do is I would utilize the research and insights that have come out of AMBA and BGA's publications recently about this topic, talk to you about some of those and how we see some of those leadership traits becoming particularly important in the current situation, and then refer those back to some of the services and products and the ethos of AMBA and BGA. Just talk a little bit about how they can assist you and help you in meeting those leadership goals. So I will go ahead and do that. I will first talk to you a little bit about AMBA and BGA, just to make sure that you have the context in terms of those services. And before I begin, I should just like to thank Lana and thank AABS for giving me this opportunity to speak to you, and I'm really pleased that we can continue our collaboration together to work together for our mutual benefits. So I'm just going to talk very briefly about AMBA. I think it's an organisation that most of you will hopefully know a reasonable amount about, so I will be brief. AMBA is the leading programme-specific business school accreditation scheme out there, and importantly, we are one of the Triple Crown accreditation institutions, and we've been operating for more than 50 years. And we accredit the MBA portfolio at up to 300 of the world's best business schools. And at AMBA, we've taken a strategic decision to limit the number of schools that we are going to accredit to 300. So the size of the network is going to be confined to that number. And we are currently at 277, I believe. So we're getting close to reaching that number. So we really want it to be an exclusive network. And importantly, it's really important to understand that AMBA is a consumer organisation. It is an organisation that was founded by and governed by mostly MBA graduates, initially coming back from the USA, who wanted to promote the quality of the MBA qualification and to ensure that there is good information about quality programmes available to future students and future graduates. So we really exist to protect the value of that qualification for all stakeholders. So if I may just take a little bit more time to talk about BGA, because that is in some ways a newer organisation in that it has only been in operation in its current guise for just under 3 years. But it was in fact the original name of AMBA when we started in 1967. So it has been a brand that has been around for a very long time. And our vision is to be the global movement for responsible management, positive impact, and lifelong learning. And these core pillars really underpin everything that BGA is about. And we have expanded on these to form the 9 points of what we call the BGA Charter. And this is the 9 points here. And essentially, in order to engage with BGA in one of the many forms available, you have to at first, at least initially, sign up to say that you believe in these principles. And then as you work through the various options available for engagement, you have to provide evidence that you are meeting these in one way or another as you move forward. So this really underpins everything that BGA does and is about. We worked really hard when we were putting BGA together to try and make sure that it is an innovative, relevant and modern organisation. So we think there are quite a few unique features in what we do and what we offer. I think the first one of these is our very explicit focus on responsible management, and in particular, specific reference to the UN SDGs. I know all accreditation bodies do and should talk about responsible management to some degree, but I think we're the only one that really has it up front and centre as the key driving principle of what we do. We have the continuous impact model, which is our methodology for measuring impact, and we think that is pretty unique. We have a validation option which sits in between membership and accreditation, which is an in-between stage that schools can take advantage of if they wish to go beyond the formal membership, but they don't have perhaps the resources or the time involved in order to achieve accreditation. This is a desktop-based, faster, more efficient way to achieve additional recognition within the network. We offer every school who is a member of BGA the opportunity to have a free desktop review once a year. And this is essentially a gap analysis, if you like, of either one of your programs or one of your elements of your offering. So for example, it could be your international strategy, and one of our team of experts will look at this for you and provide you feedback and advice on how to develop that further. And then one really important element, I think, of the BGA service package is that we do offer all of your business students free membership of BGA. And so that is a pretty strong benefit, that all your members, all your students can become members of BGA for free. And then as you move through the various service offerings, you can also gain access for your alumni as well. Now, I'm just going to move on to just illustrate the continuous impact model a little bit, just to show you that there are a variety of different elements that we expect schools to be able to demonstrate impact in. And some of these, for example, ecosystem, society and value creation, I will talk about in a moment when we come to some of the leadership traits that we have identified. So very briefly, this table just presents some of the differences between AMBA and BGA. I'm not going to go through them all, just to talk particularly about the first couple. Really, AMBA is about quality enhancement. So of course it's quality improvement, but you have to demonstrate that you are excellent before we can engage with you. So it really is for schools who have MBA programs that are already really high quality, and we will help you to improve those further. Whereas BGA really is about continuous quality improvement, and as long as your school at the very least can sign up to support the key principles of the BGA Charter, and particularly the pillars of responsible management, impact and lifelong learning, then we're very keen to work with you and to help you improve and get better. And that means that for AMBA, you can only be a member of AMBA once you are accredited, whereas BGA schools, the membership option comes first, and then you can move on through the network, through other services if you wish to do so. So I'm just going to talk to you about these 8 particular leadership traits that we have identified through some of the research and the insights that we've gathered or will be gathering and will be publishing through a variety of our fora, in particular Ambition magazine for AMBA and Business Impact magazine for BGA. And these are purpose, pioneer, entrepreneurship, engaging the ecosystem, collective leadership, responsible leadership, authentic leadership, and visionary leadership. Now, I don't think that any of these are necessarily unique or particular to this situation, but I do think that they become particularly important in dealing with long-term global uncertainty. And I also think if we're looking for some positive outcomes from this situation that we are in, hopefully these will become normalized and part of the discourse, and hopefully we can see leaders really start to embrace a lot of these terms. And I think we will be in a better place going forward once we emerge from this pandemic, if these can become the common leadership traits that most people look to assume. So the first one I'll talk about is purpose. This essentially means to have a strong sense of purpose and mission, and to remain true to this in adversity. In simple terms, this really means to put the mission first. And this is particularly important because it means that you have to define your values concisely, so that people have the clarity and the guidelines to be able to make decisions on their own and to be able to make decisions quickly. And it also means if you have a good mission, a distinctive mission, that you can add unique value to your customers or your stakeholders, and you stick to that and you don't drift into other areas that might become available more opportunistically. Now, for AMBA and BGA, for both accreditation schemes and the accreditation criteria of both organisations, it's very important that business schools have a clearly articulated mission and vision, and it's very important that these are appropriately distinctive. It's amazing to me how many times I see business schools that have a mission that could be replicated by any other business school around the world. And what you really have to do, I think it's very difficult to come up with a mission that is unique. I don't think there are enough opportunities within our particular field to really be truly unique, but I think you can be and should be distinctive, and that should really guide all your activities. And this is more important than ever in this current situation. It's also very important to be a pioneer and to use these uncertain times as a source of innovation. Now, I think it's very important that we don't just connect innovation with digitalization. There are many forms of innovation that are incredibly important, but obviously I think most of us will recognize how important digitalization has become in our particular fields in terms of dealing with the current crisis. So I will just sort of focus on one or two of those elements here. I think it's very important to note that digitizing your courses in a true, effective, integrated way is not cheap and it's not easy, and it shouldn't just be about replicating what you already do and just put it on an online platform. That really isn't true digital learning. It's actually, to do it properly, it's expensive, it's time consuming, and it needs to be done in a bespoke manner to the particular delivery method or methods that you are utilizing for what you are trying to do. At AMBA, we've recognised the importance of digital learning. We've always accredited digital online programs, but there used to always be a requirement for some element of face-to-face contact within those programs. But in our criteria review in 2015, we actually removed that requirement for face-to-face interaction, although we still have a requirement for some element of synchronous interaction for an MBA program. We think that a good quality MBA program must still have some real-time interaction, whether that is face-to-face or through online platforms. And then in the BGA accreditation criteria, we really do focus on encouraging and supporting innovation. And in fact, you will find an innovation subsection, I think, in every section of the BGA accreditation criteria. So we really do ask you to look at how you are innovating in a range of areas in your offering. Now, closely linked to innovation, of course, is entrepreneurship. And I think now more than ever, it is very important to encourage and enable either entrepreneurial or intrapreneurial, whichever way you want to look at it, and what's particular to your organization, but to enable that talent within your organization, and most importantly, to create spaces for them to thrive. And to do that, you have to create spaces for them to fail. Now, that, of course, is extremely difficult in the current situation where most organizations are watching every single penny that comes in and out of the organization. And so creating space for people to fail with their new ideas is really challenging. But it is incredibly important, because you are not going to get the innovation that you need to continue to grow, or to at least set yourself up to grow once the situation gets better for all of us, if you do not have these entrepreneurial or intrapreneurial elements operating within your organization. Now, for BGA, entrepreneurship is a key element in the continuous impact model. And so if you were to go for the BGA accreditation process, you would have to demonstrate how entrepreneurship is one of your impact elements within your organization. And we've worked very hard to create an accreditation system that recognizes practical entrepreneurial teaching as well as academic and theoretical teaching. And in the AMBA accreditation criteria, we do require that all MBA programs have at least some teaching element on entrepreneurship within the core curriculum. So it is an important element of what we think of as a contemporary MBA program offering. Now, we also think it's very important that you look to see what opportunities there are to engage with your ecosystem, and to utilize the support of that ecosystem for mutual benefit and enhancement. And really, it's very easy, I think, in times of crisis to feel available on your doorstep. The internal diversity to build new things and to offer new opportunities for growth. But also other organizations. They might be other academic organizations, they might be other corporate organizations, but it's really important that you look and think about how you can lean on your ecosystem to improve the resilience of the business school and your organization. For example, what additional data, what additional services might your partners have to be able to improve your own operations, and to look at how that can work best for you. And in BGA, connectedness is one of the key elements of the BGA Charter. And so in order to engage with BGA, you really have to be able to demonstrate how you are connected with your ecosystem. And in the AMBA accreditation process, you have to be able to demonstrate you have a strategy for partnerships with other organizations, both academic and corporate. So that's a really key part of what we would look for when we're operating our accreditation processes. The next trait I want to talk about is collective leadership. And really this is about bringing people together and harnessing talents by operating inclusively, involving as many people as possible in decision making and or reasoning. Now, obviously, the larger the organization that you have, the more difficult it is to involve everyone or a large group of people in decision making. But most importantly, it's really important to explain the reasoning behind decisions that you and your colleagues may have taken in order that they really feel part of what is happening to your organization, that they understand what is going on. And both AMBA and BGA, as I've talked about to some extent, have free membership options which create like-minded networks within them to bring people together, and to bring people together that have similar understandings, similar goals, and similar aims for society and the world, and to make the world a better place. The next one is responsible leadership, and I think it's very important that you are demonstrably working towards making the world a better place. Now, this becomes particularly important if you think about your workforce or your stakeholders that you're working with. It's particularly important in terms of inspiring them. It's very important in terms of recruitment and retention of the top talent, because current generations and future generations, what they're really going to be interested in is working for responsible organizations. And if you can provide that responsible leadership, you're more likely to be able to recruit and retain the best talent, which will obviously be to your advantage. And as a leader, you need to be seen to be driving that agenda forward. So for BGA, as you know, responsible management is one of the 3 core pillars, and we directly reference the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in a lot of the things that we do. And in the AMBA accreditation process, it is part of the core curriculum requirements that responsible management is covered within MBA programs. And then there is authentic leadership. Really this is about building an organization, building a brand, building a mission that people trust, because people want and need to be able to trust their leaders and trust the organizations that they are working for or working with. And so it's very important as a leader that you are truthful, that you are factual, and you are evidence-based, and that you are not talking in terms of hyperbole, you are not offering fake news, and you are not manufacturing things that are not true or are offered in a skewed light. And I think, if you want a political example, I think the most obvious one is if you look at someone like Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand versus Donald Trump in the US, and perhaps Boris Johnson as well in the UK, and think about how their leadership styles have been more or less effective in this current crisis. And in BGA, as I've talked about a little bit, the continuous impact model and the impact reports that we produce through the accreditation process, you actually must produce evidence-based data, metrics that show how your impact is actually having a positive effect on your business, on your business school, and on society in general. And you must actually be able to evidence this and prove it to all your stakeholders. And finally, visionary leadership. It's very important you can provide a vision of the way forward. But in order to do this, you have to be able to be aware of the latest thing and what is going on around you to be able to provide your own bespoke new insights on top of that. And so, as I've said already, a lot of these leadership traits that I've talked about have come through AMBA and BGA thought leadership. We have 2 magazines that lead on a lot of these insights that we've been able to produce. We have a research insights service, and we've produced a number of research products and insights on a variety of topics, and we are producing these in particular focused on the current pandemic crisis at the moment. And so I hope that you will be able to search these out and use these to develop your organizations going forward. So thank you very much for your time and for listening to me this afternoon. I hope this has inspired some debate around leadership and the leadership traits that are required to succeed in lockdown. And hopefully we can work together to support the industry in achieving these. So very happy to take any questions now, or these are my contact details if you wish to ask me questions at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. This has been very insightful. I love the fact that you encourage innovation across all of the different leadership traits, and it's actually very evident in the AMBA and the BGA accreditation services. But if I may, it's just a question that I would like maybe to share, best practice. You have about 11, maybe 13 accredited schools in Africa. Am I correct? Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. Perfect. So, given the leaders leading in impact and leading in a crisis, can you share maybe an anonymous example of the best practices where you've actually seen firsthand innovation happening through the types of leadership traits that you believe would, perhaps make use of the situation in the best we could? I'm talking within an African context. I think
of course, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, I haven't been able to actually undertake any accreditation visits in Africa throughout this this certain pandemic period, and that's just a function of the fact of where dates have fallen, nothing to do with not being able to undertake them because of the pandemic. So I haven't got any specific examples based on the current situation that we are in, but absolutely, if we're talking about digitization, there's certainly one or two schools that spring to mind that I probably shouldn't mention the names of, that have really done some excellent work in terms of building engagement between people through online platforms. And I think that is really the key element. It's very easy to make things available for people to watch online. You can film lectures, you can put them online, people can watch them in their own time. That's fantastic. I don't want to put any sort of negative connotation on those at all, but the really great digital platforms enable interaction between the faculty and the students, but also between student peer groups in ways that really enable them to engage with each other, to learn with each other, both synchronously in real time, but also asynchronously at different time periods. And that really is the key if you want to produce digital platforms that work well and can best sort of replicate that experience that you would have in a face-to-face environment, which is not possible at the moment.
So one last question. If anybody else would have a question, please jump in. I mean, I'm just because it's with accreditation, there's so much that you can do and pretty much ensure efficiency across the school. But one questions that comes to mind, or maybe just a comment here. If you would give one tip to ensure quality when it comes to digitalization of the courses, because this is pretty much new to our part of the world. I mean, people usually depend heavily on face-to-face, unlike other continents where you do some online, but not as much as has been happening the past few months. So what would be one or two tips that you would provide from experience to ensure in quality when we moving forward to online teaching and learning, from the school's perspective, from the student's perspective, from the facilitator's perspective? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Lana. Yes, I mean, I think the key thing which I mentioned a few minutes ago really is about making it a bespoke platform as much as possible. And so really think about what are the advantages of delivering something online and what are the disadvantages of delivering something online, and really make sure you have a platform that can take both of those into account. So, for example, one of the advantages is that you can bring a much bigger group of people together from, if you talk about the African context, from across the continent in a way that would be probably difficult to do in a face-to-face environment. So that's a phenomenal advantage for learning, to be able to bring diverse cultures and people together, different perspectives. So think about ways that you can build platforms that can really do that, but in an authentic way. It's not about someone asking a question, how do you pass this exam or whatever. It's truly an integrated part of the learning experience, linked to learning goals and all those sorts of things. And what you don't want to do is to just put everything you already do online. And the most important thing really beyond that is to be prepared to invest in it. I think a lot of schools, quite rightly, had to turn something around very quickly that was probably not what they would have wanted to put together, but there was a need to get students learning again as quickly as possible. And so there probably was a requirement to pretty much replicate what you were doing in the classroom and just throwing things online. And that was a needs must situation, and it was a crisis, and everyone, I'm sure, did the best they could to respond to that. But if you're looking to how you can build it forward, really take a step back. Don't think about what we're doing and how we can replicate that. Think about what can we do that's new, that's different, but that really takes all the advantages of having an online platform and an online service, and that mitigates against some of the disadvantages of that.
I have to apologize in advance. My kids are also attending this webinar on the lockdown behalf. So you know, it's if they were cutting you off, or you've had to hear them knock the door. So I apologize in advance for that. But thank you so much, Mark, for that. This has been very useful and very insightful. And I hope that the participants, and I'm sure that they will take away, especially when it comes to the leadership traits. I think they were very unique. That they were actually tied to certain standards and certain quality assurance measurements that you can actually, when you do something, you can actually make sure that you connect it somehow and you're able to ensure its impact, because impact is pretty much, and innovation, they go hand in hand when it comes to ensuring quality business management practices in education, not just in Africa, but I believe across the world. Thank you so much, Mark, for your very insightful presentation and for this very interesting topic during times of crisis. And thank you so much for the participants. And we look forward to more collaborations and more topics in the future with AMBA.
Thank you so much, Lana. And yeah, very much hope to be able to see you all again in person when that's a possibility. But until then, we will continue to operate in this way. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and stay safe. Thank you.